Can you tell me a bit about your experience as you first came to America, and sort of like what your initial thoughts were?
Well, I
As
didn't have initial thoughts. Uh, very, I had no idea what I was expecting to accomplish there because I had sort of like had this idea that I would be writing in Russian and making my living by writing in Russian in the United States. I had promised myself not to be an engineer again because I didn't like that particularly. So I had decided basically I view it as an opportunity to start life anew. Like your one life is ended. You're 30 years old. You'd lived a life, and now you basically it's almost like like this project Mars One, just you going on Mars and
right,
and,
and you're
and
never coming
you're
back.
never coming back.
Yeah.
And you're literally never coming back because they won't let you back necessarily. So and so here you are on Mars. So what are you gonna do? Well, I'm gonna write in Russian, and then within like 30 minutes you get disabused of that notion that you can survive by being a Russian writer. But we back in Leningrad and back in the Soviet Union, we had thought that actually that might be possible because we'd seen books published that looked like real books. Some of them even paperbacks. There were no paperbacks in the Soviet Union, no technology of paperbacks. So we saw books in Russian published by Russian writers that looked like real books. And if it's real books, then there must be Union of Writers. And if there is real books, then you can sell those books and get money. Little did we know, of course, that those good-looking books were published basically in the basement of some emigre house, somewhere in New York and Boston, and
And
they
they weren't
just
big
and they
sellers.
were they were not sellers at all
Yeah.
because you paid money to get them published. So all of those were kind of vanity projects, with the exception of maybe one or two publications that were on, like Artist Press, the famous one. But generally, all of them were money losing propositions. And so yeah, and then I had no idea what I was going to do, and I started basically I was in Boston, so I just was bumping around Boston from one emigre household to the next, drinking and talking and so forth, and working in bookstores, and because I realized that I needed uh, to get a much better command of English. I could read and I could translate quite well and I could speak some, but when I got to the United States, I realized that my conversational English is basically non-existent because I had no experience conversing with people at normal speed of human conversation. So I was completely lost. I would turn on television, I would have absolutely no idea what, because they were talking much too fast for me. So at least a year or two was just uh, were spent just by me watching television and trying to work this job at bookstores. I wanted to be around books and around Harvard Square. Unfortunately, I was also becoming depressed, and I was losing those jobs at those bookstores because my English was in some way not good enough to communicate with customers and so forth, and I was missing work because I started being depressed and developed some kind of anxiety or agoraphobia. So sometimes I wouldn't make it to work. So, the first couple of years were like really quite difficult.